Okay, I'm going to call this December 2nd hearing on election protest meeting to order. So if we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting today is to conduct a hearing pursuant to Section 163-182.10 of the North Carolina General Statutes on an election protest filed by Jefferson Griffin, alleging the Currituck County Board of Elections has counted a ballot cast by a voter who had their registration denied and were therefore ineligible to vote. I'm going to turn it over to Currituck County Attorney Megan Morgan to summarize for us, the board, and the parties present, the nature and process of this proceeding. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, since we don't have name plates in front of us, if you'll just go around and indicate what your name is, basically, for the record.
Basically a roll call.
Yes.
Okay.
Dot Johnson.
Chris Hooper.
Chairman Edward Ponton.
Secretary Olden Miller.
Director of Elections, Kimberly Twine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the County Board of Elections will hear evidence at this hearing in the form of affidavits or testimony of witnesses who will be placed under oath before testifying. The board may hear evidence from any person with information concerning the subject of this protest, which is whether Brian Glenn Griffin was eligible to vote in the November 2024 election in Currituck County. The person who made the protest and any other person to whom notice was given shall be permitted to present evidence. The board may permit evidence to be presented by a person to whom notice was not given if the person apparently has a significant interest in the resolution of the protest that is not adequately represented by other participation. The board may also allow evidence by affidavit. This hearing is being recorded, and the full record of the hearing will be preserved by the board until directed otherwise by the State Board of Elections. Upon presentation of the evidence, an opportunity for rebuttal, and closing arguments, the board will make an oral decision before the parties and will commemorate that decision through a written order that contains findings of fact and conclusions of law. To sustain an election protest, the board must find substantial evidence of violation of election law has occurred. And here that would involve the voter eligibility of Brian Glenn Griffin. We're only dealing with one voter here in Currituck. The board is unable to finally determine the effect that this would have on the outcome of that election because this is a multi-county election. So your job is just to determine if there was a violation of election law, whether this individual was in fact eligible to vote or not based on the evidence that will be presented to you today. But as far as the outcome, you will not be able to determine that. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The North Carolina Rules of Evidence and Rules of Procedure do not apply to protest hearings. However, they should be used as a guide where practical. So if there's any question about whether evidence should be admitted, of course you can ask for my opinion, but that would be up to you. In making your decision, the board will stay impartial and ensure elements of a fair trial are met. So that's just basically kind of a reiteration of the statute, the North Carolina General Statute that governs election protests. There's also a section of the administrative code that governs it as well. So today, this is a hearing, and as you can see, there's only one individual in the audience who is here on behalf of the campaign. And so I will turn it over to the chairman to get started. I believe what you're doing today is being the finders of fact as to whether this person was eligible to vote. And I think the only way you'll be able to do that is get information from the director herself, who will have to be sworn in prior to.
All right, well, I would call you to, well, I guess you can stay where you are, but we'll have to swear you in first, which I'm able to do under the statutes.
Yeah, just bring this up.
Yeah, you can stay where you are, but you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to state the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you're sworn in. All right, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, because of the hearing that we've been called to today, I've gone back to pull through all of the history. I could find the voter history or any history on Mr. Griffin, the voter in question here. And the first item I have is a North Carolina State Board of Elections Form 2023.04. And you'll notice up in the top right corner, it's 05. The 05 indicates that this application was submitted through the DMV, in person at the DMV. This is apparently, this is when the person went in and obtained a North Carolina driver's license. He initially gave a physical home address and a PO box, as well as a phone number. And in keeping with our guidelines, we then send out, once we receive a new voter application, we send out a verification postcard. When we sent out the postcard, oh, and I'm sorry, let me go back. His application is from May 16th, 2024. We sent out a verification postcard, and we finally had it returned to us. It came into the office in July 8th, and it was returned with a address in Florida. So at that point, the voter was, his update registration information was updated to removed, and that he had moved out of state. And that might be where the confusion lies. But the gentleman, our voter, Mr. Griffin, continued to pursue his application. And then on
And Ms.
September,
Twine, before you
Yes.
go on to that next document, so if I think you passed it to Mr. Miller, so it would be up to the board whether to accept that into evidence. That document that she just described, I would recommend doing that piece by piece before you start testifying about the next document, because I think you have several documents. So if you want to just pass that around, and then the chairman can indicate whether that is accepted into evidence or not. You can discuss it if you have an issue with it, or if you have any questions of me.
I'm assuming the process would just be that I move that we accept it as evidence.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't think it requires a formal vote.
Okay.
But you can just accept that into evidence as an exhibit. We can call it Exhibit A.
Okay. I would, unless there's some objection, I would accept Exhibit A as evidence.
I'll second it.
Okay. Exhibit A, is it accepted into evidence?
okay. The next document that I brought today is also North Carolina State Board of Elections Form 2023.04, but it is Form number 10, which indicates that Mr. Griffin realized, I don't know if he called our office, but he must have realized that his voter registration was not accepted in our system. So he reapplied using the 010. That indicates he did it online through the DMV website. The only changes, we did notice that he no longer used the phone number, and he no longer uses his PO box number. So we did a mailing to this address. Again, as required, we sent out a postcard to verify this voter's address. Again, it did come back to us with this same address in Florida. So at that point, we have him still listed as active, but unverified new. I don't know if I'm not sure. I don't know if I should give any, we can only make assumptions as to why that could have happened again, but he has registered again. Again, I have the copy of that application. I have a copy of the returned postcard, and then the screenshot of the information in the state website, elections website.
Mr. Chairman, pending review by the other board members, I'll make a motion that we accept Exhibit B.
Yes, I would second that motion to accept it as evidence. All in favor of that?
Aye.
All right, that motion carried unanimously, as did the previous one.
Okay, and my final exhibit, Exhibit C, the voter then appeared in person at early voting on October 21st at 2:33 p.m., at which time the voter would have been asked for his photo ID. The voter would have also been asked to state and verify his mailing or home address. And then the voter signed what is called an authorization to vote form. And that indicates he then certified, Mr. Brian Glenn Griffin certified that he's a registered voter in this county and has resided at the address stated above for more than 30 days. He certified he's a United States citizen and that he's at least 18 years of age. And he understands that it's a felony to vote more than one time in an election and that he is not a convicted felon. Again, he has signed this. My poll worker has initialed it. And just for the record, I also included the oath of office that my poll worker took. My poll worker that assisted Mr. Griffin has been serving in elections for a number of years and is actually a chief judge. And I feel very confident that she handled this as she should have, and that Mr. Griffin voted as he should have the right to do so. And then I have a screenshot also from the voter history within the SEAMS. Again, it's just showing exactly what time he voted on the day, the precise computer that was used, and that his ballot was accepted.
So you can consider that collectively as Exhibit C. It sounds like there's a few documents in that packet, an affidavit, that oath, and the voter history. Okay. And of course, these documents will be made available to the public, including counsel for the campaign.
I'd ask under unanimous consent that we just accept Exhibit C as evidence.
Make a motion, we accept it.
Okay. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Accepted Exhibit C. Is that the final piece?
It is.
So at this time, if you have any questions of Ms. Twine, this would be a good time to do that. And if not, Ms. Womble can come up and present anything that she has, or if she has any questions.
Could I have that first piece of
They're in
evidence?
order.
Okay, great. I was just wanting to check something. I would just make an observation that all three documents that we have the same residential address. There is at one point there is a separate mailing address for a P.O. box, which is not uncommon in our county. Ms. Twine, I would just ask, is there any reason that you have that you could share that this voter may not be eligible to vote in Currituck County?
None whatsoever. Everything that the voter has provided us at this point would indicate they have every right to vote. Again, the largest and strongest piece of evidence, I think, is the authorization to vote form, which the voter signed at early voting. And that basically puts the burden on the voter at this point if it should be challenged further.
Anyone else have any questions? I mean, I guess
Okay.
we'll be.
So, yeah, at this time, Mr. Chairman, if you want to invite anyone to make any rebuttal evidence or ask questions of Ms. Twine, there's only one person in the
Yeah,
audience.
I would invite you, Ms. Womble,
Ms.
to do that.
Womble,
I guess I would need to swear you in as well, or no?
no, because I don't think she's offering. Yeah, she's
Okay.
the attorney for the campaigns. Good
Right.
question, but no.
Fire
you.
away.
I'm just here on behalf of the Jefferson Griffin campaign, and thank you for holding this hearing today and allowing Mr. Griffin the opportunity to pursue this appeal. I understand from Ms. Morgan that you guys did the preliminary review, I believe last week, which moved at least 2 items already to the state board, and then brought us back here today for this one last voter. I think primarily the biggest, my request is one, that you accept the protests and all the attachments thereto as part of the record. And if you'll make that, accept that as an exhibit into the record, just as this moves on to the next phase, it needs to be accepted in. So I would request that first.
I have no issue with accepting the protest as part of the record. Yeah.
Yes.
And the attachments. There's an affidavit as well.
Yes, yes. We've seen all that last week,
Yes,
right?
that was before you had the preliminary
I mean, I would
consideration.
move that we accept that into the record.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
So moved.
And then finally, I understand Ms. Morgan did a fantastic job filling you in on the process and the procedure, so I will not belabor the point, but I would thank you for your time. The information provided today, I will note that the campaign does do public records requests in anticipation of these items, and a lot of this information is not available to the campaign initially. So thank you for your time, your consideration, and I look forward to your decision. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them, although I am here as kind of a local contact. So,
Understood.
all right, thank you.
Is there any other evidence before the board or anyone else that would like to? I guess I would move that we close the evidentiary phase of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passed unanimously. And now it's time for us just to deliberate and discuss discussion of evidence. I would just open that up by saying, I'm not sure, I don't think we can probably move into the nuances of why someone's mail, why they would receive it in Currituck might be. I hesitate to even say, might just have had their mail forwarded to another address that they may maintain, which is perfectly legal for that person to do. I don't know why this would have been flagged, probably because of that particular reason, but I don't know that it's within our scope to attempt to deny someone's vote based on a forwarding address or something else when all the addresses we have on file have matched, except for that one P.O. box, which is also within a Currituck address. That would just be my opening thoughts, and I think I will turn it over to you all.
All right, just to make sure I understand, all these that were sent and returned were not returned by the post office. Is that correct?
No, these were the 2 that went out, the initial in person at the DMV, and then the second application, Mr. Griffin applied online. They both came back. They were both returned to us from the United States Postal Service with a Florida address. If I may add, I tried to do.
What does that mean?
I can't question the United States Postal Service. I mean, as far as this, it doesn't say forwarding address. It just says return to sender with his last name and then the address that is shown as a Florida address.
Okay, so that means that the post office has a forwarding address?
This is not stated that it is a forwarding address to be forwarded. I can't question. I haven't had the opportunity. I would like to go to the post office and see if they could give me some more
I don't think she
information.
can really answer that question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all we can say, I think all we know is that it was mailed to the address we have on file.
Correct.
and then it came back from a Florida address, we could maybe make assumptions of what might happen in between, but I think that would be a stretch for us to do,
Right.
you know?
Well, I mean, if it is, I mean, that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to.
Yeah.
In trying to get as much information as I could, I did try to do investigative work on something like this, and I did try to do some investigative work, and I believe Mr. Griffin has resided within the county based on information I was able to glean. He has lived in this county for a number of years. But I believe because of the line of work, I believe he does. He is in and out of the area a lot for his work.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
I will state also, in trying to explore and dig into this, I phoned the county in which Crestview, Florida is located, and I believe it was Okaloosa County.
Volusia County, yeah.
This gentleman's never been registered there. They don't have any history of him. I just wanted to try and verify that as well.
So we don't have to worry that he voted in 2 states.
Yeah.
Right. But again, the voter signed the authorization to vote affidavit, and that would put the burden of all of this on that voter if there were to be any further protest or exploring.
With the evidence given, I'd say that,
Do you have a motion?
yeah, I'll make it a motion. With the
Okay.
evidence given, I think that he would be eligible to vote.
I would
And we
second.
should accept his vote.
I would second that we accept this vote as proper.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there any other business before, or?
And also, I'm just making sure that we got all that we needed. So I also, based on the motion that you just made, I think another motion would have to be made also to dismiss the protest hearing. So make a motion that this protest shall be dismissed because there's no violation of law or anything like that. So that just extra motion, I think we probably should do.
I'll make a motion that we dismiss this election protest due to lack of evidence of any improper
Violation of election law.
or any violation of election law in Currituck County.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carried unanimously.
I think that's good. I just want to make sure we cross all of our Ts.
Thank you for keeping us in line.
Yeah, so I think that would be it for the hearing, unless there's anything else that you need to discuss. But other than that, you can adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.